Welcome back to Home Sweet Home. My name is Rod.
And I am Bryce.
And true to his word, we have Darrell Terry back with us. We had such a good time talking with you.
I'm
glad
to keep it going.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm happy to be back.
All right. Fantastic. We talked a lot about, growing up. We talked about, some of the racial issues, some of the challenges of, living today, raising kids today, trying to, especially in a world that has a lot of social media out there that focuses on, fake things. We also seem to, or at least it appears to me as I'm, watching the news, reading the news, well, there's a lot of let's get you moments.
Yeah.
And trying to raise children today to try to not fall into that trap. I kind of want to continue, and you being, your background in hospitality, your background in policing, kind of how do you approach raising, you've kind of touched on this anyway, but, how do you teach your children how to live in this world where so much emphasis is placed on our individuality of race or religion or gender or sexual identity. But how do you then teach to also be acceptance and tolerance of a person when there seems to be so much of this individuality going on?
Well, I think, honestly, you just teach your kids to be who they are. And, you raise them as if, you raise them kind of how you want them to be shaped in this world, with our girls, and I speak on our girls a lot because that's really who we're raising. But, you got to be you. The thing is, you can't live through other people, and you can't do things as if somebody else wanted you to do it, because we have enough followers in this world. And I try to teach them to be leaders. And leading, you have to lead by example. Meaning, in the line of work that I do, I wear my badge with integrity. And, that integrity piece, it means a lot, because it means doing the right thing when no one's looking, So you got to be able to have that trust, with your kids and your family and your friends, and to know, hey, what you taught them and what you're teaching them is working, because at the end of the day, they're going to go out here and they're going to face the real world. They're going to go out, they're going to go off to college, they're going to work in the workforce. They're going to drive cars. They're going to get pulled over by the police, at some point. There's going to be some adversity there. And how do you overcome that? And how do you get through that? So we talked about, on the last show we did, just being present, being in the moment, and, being present means when you're there consistently and you can show them, the right way to do things. It's not always talking. I'm an action person, it's about action, and if you can actually show them, then I think that's how they would, how they get it and how they understand it. I mean, because that works for me. You can tell me a million times how to do something. Like when we got locked down for the pandemic and the girls in the schools was doing everything virtually. I said, I would have sucked at that. Ain't no way I would have survived that just looking at the computer screen. I need you to work that math problem out for me. I need to see it. I need to see you. I need to see your lips, and that teaches me, that shows me. And I think our kids in today's world, everything is basically it's show me, let me see it. Mm-hmm. It's a more see me. So I make sure that when I do things and I catch myself, even when I'm riding in the car, the certain music I listen to, and certain looks I give people, because if something happens, somebody cut me off, first thing my daughter do is she looks right over at me like, what is he gonna do? So now I gotta be like, all right, pray for that person.
Inside your mind, you go dirt and Roddy. None of them. All kinds of.
Because they're watching, and you just want to do things decently and in order, man. And I always live by the quote that it's just nice to be nice, and that means it's just nice to be nice to people, because people don't have to be nice to you, and I try to teach my kids that too, man. Just be nice in the moment, man, and let God handle the rest.
Mm-hmm. It is hard to do that. And when I'm thinking about it, you're going into the Quick Trip or some kind of Quickie Mart, and I see somebody coming. Well, I try and hold the door open for them.
Yeah.
And it's no big deal for me, but I also know how I feel when somebody does that. When somebody holds the door open for, hey, thanks a lot. I mean, it's the little things that. Now, I don't always do it, but I kind of feel better about myself. I feel like I've done something nice for somebody without them asking.
Yes.
And, from the responses I sometimes see on people's faces, well, they're not used to that. Okay. And so it makes me feel even better. And then I try to remember, well, let's try and do that again. And try and do it again and again and again.
It's because the world needs a lot of good, the goodness of, the world needs goodness. So I hold doors and I open doors for people too. But sometimes I get a little frustrated, if you don't say thank you. So what I'll say, I'll be like, you're welcome.
Sure. I'm literally thinking the same thing because that happens all the time. Sometimes I've said, oh, you're welcome.
Right. Like,
Oh, hey, yeah, don't worry about it. No.
I got that for you.
Yeah.
You're only the 9th person in a row. I was only doing it for one and I've been here 5 minutes. No, but at the same time, I remind myself, my dad would always tell me, and again, it goes back to we model our parents. Yep. My dad says you never do something with the intent that somebody's going to praise you.
Right.
You do it because it is the right thing to do. And, since all three of us now work in an educational environment, one of the things that wears me slick is stereotypes. And kids do not want to be judged by stereotypes, yet they act stereotypical. And I will tell my students all the time, look, you're 18, you're 17, you're high school kids. Yeah. People already have a negative image of you. Yeah. Why would you do something that encourages that negative stereotype? I see people all the time dressing according to stereotypes. The baggy, saggy bottom breeches.
Yeah.
That just...
Is that still around?
Oh, it is. I saw a grown man at Kroger's wearing, his pants came up to halfway up his butt cheeks, and then he had his Hanes underwear, and I wanted to go to the guy, and I'm going, do you really appreciate, I don't know. Part of me just says, now, stop, just dress. Yeah. Now, some of my cultural diversity courses that I've been taking say, well, it's culture. And, these people need, well, you shouldn't westernize them. Or you should, and part of me is going, well, if you want to wear traditional garb from where you're from, that's fine, but at the same time, if you don't, part of me, stereotypes is also the way you talk, the way you walk. And I see a lot of our students, especially some of our non-white students who come from other areas trying to pretend that there's something they're not. Because, we're a North Dallas suburb and we don't have a lot of those kinds of things, but of inner city gang type.
Right.
And so they want to act and behave in ways. And part of me just says, look, if you don't want to be treated like a stereotype, then why act like a stereotype?
So honestly, I agree partially. And again, everything is cultural. So, and like I said, working in the school setting, I do find that our kiddos do try to culturalize certain things, especially in the Black culture. The rap music, the dressing, I feel like it's their way of being accepted and fitting in, even though they don't realize, what they're doing or the meaning behind it. I'll give you an example. They were doing a performance at the high school a couple months back. I think it was Lion King or something like that. And, I was all about it. The theater department, they putting on this play and, they happy about it. They got the actors and they got all the clothing and they ready to go out and just do their thing. They're like, hey, we're doing Lion King. But one of the clubs in the school was like, whoa, 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 hold on, what are y'all doing? They're using African clothing, and this was, I guess, filmed in an African safari somewhere. So they're like, hey, we just doing, the show. We just put on the show. We don't know the meaning behind the clothing and, the language. We just study the scripts and we just performing it. But, the black kids that was kind of like, well, nah, y'all can't just put on the show. You need to know what's going on behind all this and the meaning behind all these things. So what I was happy to see was, because they came to me and they asked my opinion and what they should do and how they should move forward with it. I said, have a conversation with the theater department and y'all get on the same page. And what brought me so much joy was the theater department was like, hey, absolutely. Teach us what that means. Let us know, what this hit rap means. And, when I'm saying this word, what this means. So they went so far to even invite the other group of kiddos, like, hey, I know y'all not a part of the theater, but when we do these performances, how about y'all come out first and y'all explain to the audience what the clothing means? And
that's really cool.
That is cool.
So I was like, how cool is that?
Yeah.
But again, I think that's the part of it. That's the key, because again, culture and embracing one's culture, you just put on the clothes or you put on the eyelashes or you listen to the music. Again, a lot of the music that we're listening to now and our kids are listening to, the rap music and, the terms and the language, like you said, we're in Prosper, Texas, and, we, North Dallas, it's a suburban area. They don't live that lifestyle.
Right.
You ain't toting guns and, selling drugs. And if you are, you portraying a life that you have no idea where this can lead you to, and rap music. And when rappers rap, it's all about telling their story. And, some of them lying, some of them telling the truth. It just depends, but they're telling a story. And when they're rapping, they're telling the story and they're trying to get seen. They're trying to get famous. They're trying to get put on because they want to leave the hood. The objective is to leave that behind. It's not to stay where you are. So if you hear in Prosper, Frisco, and McKinney, and the Metroplex, you don't have to live that lifestyle. Like Rod said earlier, we got kids that move here and still want to live that lifestyle. Because I talk to them constantly. Like, man, you don't have to sag the pants and cock your hat and walk around with this attitude, because here no one's looking at you like that. Your parents moved you here for a reason. It was to get you away from everything that that was kind of holding you back and holding you down. So you're in a different environment. You're in a different situation. So I think really it's just adapting to where you are now. And sometimes that adaptation is hard for some students because they feel like, well, this is all I know. Like, for me, for example, if I would have came here with the same mentality that I had in Chicago, I'll be a different person here. But I understand, okay, I'm in a different environment. That's why I moved my girls here, so they can get a different perspective on living and life and school and sports and all those things. So you got to take advantage of where you are and, the people that's in your life now.
How do kids respond when because I'm curious how they respond, because I'm assuming, as you're talking to our non-white students, non-white kids, because how do they respond when you say, hey, you don't have to be like that?
I think it's been really positive. And, again, I give them my story and I let them know my background and where I'm from. And as soon as most times when I do that, they be like, Officer Terry, you ain't from the hood.
Yeah.
You from the suburbs. I was like, wow, because I don't act that way.
Right.
Because I don't talk that way. Because I enunciate my words and I use, sentences. Like, no, I'm from that. I'm from the inner city of Chicago. But again, you are who you are. And I think a lot of the kids now, they respect it. And what they need is they need somebody speaking life into them and giving them different perspectives on how to live and how to do things. There's been several students who came in, who moved from South Dallas and, other bigger cities and was, had that mentality that, hey, I got to fight, to prove who I am, or, I need to, skip class and be in the hallway so that I can prove that, hey, I'm a bad person, or, this person, But after talking to them and having conversations with them, and it's not one conversation. And like I tell the kids, I say, hey, our conversations are going to continue. This ain't just, Officer Terry talking to you, this one time. These things have to happen over time. And I done watch kids graduate from Prosper High School who came in, who wasn't with it. They wasn't with the program. And after multiple conversations, they come like, Officer Terry, I'm graduating, I'm going to Texas Tech, or, I'm going to SMU. I'm like, wow, really? You want to go? Before it went, I don't want to go to college. So it's really, man, just being able to relate to and being relatable. And I just like to speak to being relatable now because we're all from different parts of the cities and the countries. Everybody's, different. So that's why it's nice having that diversity in our schools and having somebody that's relatable. I know in Black culture, man, seeing a Black face and seeing a Black man in a police uniform, it helps, our non-Black kids a whole lot because when I do have those conversations or on the first day of school and they see Officer Terry, I had kids tell me, man, I don't talk to the police. I don't trust the police. I never liked the police. Why? Because y'all locked up my dad. Y'all took my uncle to jail. Every time I'm riding around, I get pulled over by the police. So it's hard, man. It's hard tearing down those walls. But I think that's why we were placed in the schools as police. And for me, it's to change that narrative and change the perspective on policing and, building that trust back up amongst police. Because, again, everything that they talked to me about and said, the reasons why they didn't like the police, I had those same reasons. I went through those same things. Have I been pulled over without justification and without probable cause? Absolutely. Have many of my family members went to jail? Absolutely. But that doesn't mean all police are bad or out to get you. So it's been really fun, changing that narrative and me being a positive, somewhat role model, daddy figure, uncle figure in these kids' lives. And watching them succeed and, just getting out of the mindset of, okay, well, this is how I got to be done. And this is how I got to act to, actually, I want to play sports. I want to graduate. I want to go to college. And I want to see what the world has to offer. So it's been fun.
Yeah. I think that's, you've said so many powerful things. And it's that mentality, like you said. And I could say this because I'm from California. We have a lot of Californians moving in, but they also come with a California mentality.
Yes.
And I could say the same thing because I came and I moved here and I had that California mentality. But like you said, having to adapt, right? And like change, like and literally transfer. I don't have to bring that with me because a lot of the stuff that I'm bringing wasn't good.
Right.
So I have to change that. We had a kid, this was several years ago when I ran ISS. And he came in from the Dallas area.
Yeah.
And we went toe to toe several times, but he had that mentality.
Yeah.
And
not backing down.
Yeah. And I'm like, look, we're gonna change this. Okay, you're gonna be successful.
Yes.
And we're gonna fight. Not physically, although I'm sure he wanted to.
Of course.
But I'm like, and I'm not gonna back down, and I'm like, this is a mindset thing.
It is.
And we're gonna develop a new mindset. And he ended up, because he was a little bit older, but he ended up playing football. And he was so ecstatic. You could see the transformation. And then he ended up graduating.
Nice.
And then he started going back into aligning himself with the people that he used to hang out with.
Nice.
I don't think, it worked out after that. But like there was that time where it was like you're talking about the kid in the hallway giving you attitude. We should not ISS, but like let's bring him into a mindset classroom because it's a mindset thing.
It is.
Right, there's a lot of other things like respect and what. And I know I'm going off a little bit,
No, you're
but
fine. You're good.
it's the mentality thing,
It
right?
is. Big
And
time.
so,
But are
Yes.
we? I try and bounce back and forth. I try and put myself in their shoes as to, okay, why are they feeling it necessary to act this way? Are they afraid? And, as you mentioned, Darrell, about, parents, it starts at home. I am so convinced that we as parents, it's part of our responsibility to teach, to be active in helping teach them, but teach them, the right way. But sometimes if as adults our experience is colored by bad experiences, multiple bad experiences, how do we, because you guys have both talked about, being pulled over when, the kids are in the car and the first thing they do is look at you.
Right.
Okay. How do we step past our negative experiences to try and say and teach our children that, hey, it's my experiences are bad, some of it is my own doing, but that we don't carry these hatreds, these negative stereotypes about people, about cops, about authority figures onto our children. And I mean, I struggle with trying to kind of be in both positions, both kids as well as adults, because I see this. I mean, I see this with with parents that, well, they had negative experiences with school, so therefore they assume that even though that was many years ago in different towns and different states, that all schools and all teachers are all the same. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like, well, no, we're not all the same, and I know what you're like, what you maybe have experienced.
Right. Well, I think it's just really, like you say, building that trust back up, and like I said before, it's really being in the moment and being visible, because trust is one thing. Like I say, trust is it's easy to lose it and it's hard to get back, right?
Sure.
So just like dealing with a bad school, and you had issues with the principals and you had issues with the teachers and the students. So when you come over to a different school district, you feel like, okay, well, it's going to be the same thing. They're going to do the same exact things until they start seeing changes, until they start seeing it differently. It's just like with police experiences. It's like, hey, you got that happened in Dallas, or that happened in Cali or New York. So when you come here, it's different, but you can't just say it's going to be different. You have to actually show that it's going to be different. So
deeds, not words.
Absolutely. So with us, I mean, it's different because like I said, I'm a big action guy. Mm-hmm. So, hey, I show our kiddos how is it different? Okay, well, I get out, I talk to you, I interact with you, I do little silly things. So one thing with our department is, because we have police in every school, from elementary, middle school, and high school. So we want our kids to have at least 500 to 1,000 positive interactions with police by the time they get out of high school. What that do for our country and for our world and for our cities is those kids get out and they meet 100 other people, and they can tell them and they can testify to how good Prosper ISD police was good, and how they changed the narrative on policing, and how not all police are the same. Because if I was to live in the moment, or to continue to live the way I live, going off of Chicago experiences, man, I wouldn't trust anybody, but we have to learn to, set aside certain differences to be able to open up and trust again, because you how do you do that? It's hard. So you got to live by what you say, So I don't mind doing, silly TikToks with our kids. Being on Snapchat.
By the way, I really do enjoy, I don't know if it's still available, but you doing the car dance.
I got some more dances for you.
You got some more one? All right, good. Very good. That's Darrell Terry at whatever your handle is. Check them out. They're entertaining.
Absolutely. I mean, but that's how, it's been different for us, man, and different for our district. It's just being in the moment and being present with our kids and showing them. We just recently at the high school, myself and Sergeant Reese, who I work with at Prosper, man, we just recently started a Lunch with Cops deal.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, we try to take the newer kids that's new to Prosper, but at least 3 to 4 once a week, where we give them, we have lunch with them. We provide them with whatever lunch they want. They say Wingstop, Chick-fil-A, whatever that looks like for them. And, we sit down, we have lunch. It's informal. We crack jokes. We listen to music, and they just get to see us as real people. Because I think what happens is people see police as like robots. And, I see people in Walmart, they be like, oh, you wear Nikes? Like, you got a white shirt? Like, yeah. Oh, you don't drive a police car here?
Right.
Like, no. Like, they're just actual people, you know. So seeing them in the natural and letting them know, man, you know, we just regular people. And I think that helps them a lot too. Also, you know, just being there and with these lunches is showing, okay, you can trust us. So we want to do this every week. So they look forward to it. So when that day rolls around and it's Wednesday and we promise them Chick-fil-A and they come up to the room and guess what? It's Chick-fil-A there. So now that trust is steady growing. So now they can trust us to do what we say we're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, now they can get the word out and they can spread the word. Like, man, I don't trust those cops. Nah, you can trust those. I mean, I can't speak for everybody else that's police, but for Officer Terry and Sergeant Reeves, hey, those are good dudes, man. And they gonna hold you. We hold you accountable, but we're going to be there and we're going to be present and we're going to do what we say we're going to do. So
I think that's really something that we as, you know, educators and as adults in general, I mean, I could see why kids would have levels of distrust of any authority figure because authority figures set and maintain boundaries. I mean, as adults, that's what we're supposed to do. As whether we're parents or educators or police officers, that's our job. Kids' jobs are to push those boundaries, but when they have pushed it too far, understand that you have now crossed the boundaries and there is going to be consequences as a result. But I think it's also our responsibility as adults to be there. As you just said, I like the way you said that. Be there in the moment. Yeah. And show respect. I mean, I try as a teacher, you know, I'll stand out in front of the my classroom and I'll check them off and I'll call them by name and I'll call, you know, I try and show them a little respect by calling them Mr. or Miss. Yeah. So that way, you know, again, building a level of trust and rapport. And I see that amongst most of the staff. Absolutely. They're, or at least the ones that I regularly engage and see in action, they do that. And it's really neat because I think that helps show and develop kids that, okay, you can be a squirrel because that's kind of what you are. You're learning those things. But once you get out of that squirrely behavior, which is why I could never do middle school like you do, Bryce. I do my seniors act that 1 year I had to do freshmen. I thought I was going to jump out the window, and I don't even have open windows. But it was, I love working with older kids because transitioning from what I have heard they are at middle school, by the time then I, you know, as a freshman, sophomore, by the time they come to me, well, they're not that squirrel. They have had enough life experiences and hopefully positive experiences. Yeah. Because maybe that's something that, I don't know, maybe I'm just spitballing out here, but it feels like our world promotes all the negatives, and whether, no matter what it is, and I don't know that I don't see enough positives being portrayed in any form. And I feel like folk are drawn into that negative, whether it's negative imaging that they see on social media, maybe it's the negative imaging about authority figures, in particular law enforcement, that is all over the place. And it seems, you know, that there is this almost like it's a battle between doing, I'm going to do whatever I want, and you can't tell me to do any different. That there are boundaries? No, there's no boundaries. I have the right to choose to do whatever I want. And it's kind of like, well, as was explained to me when I was real little, you have the right to do whatever you want until it begins to infringe on the rights of someone else.
That's right.
And I sometimes feel like we've missed that your rights are only important to you and my rights are more important because they're my rights. And I don't know, maybe I'm just, you know, seeing the world in a very unusual circumstance and I'm outside my mind, which Bryce says I usually am anyway.
Pretty often.
But I don't know.
I think that's good. I mean, like you say, when you talk about the negative, I mean, that's really what mostly everybody's caught up on. Even if it's divorces, like Kanye West and Kim Kardashian, they didn't divorce. I mean, so all this stuff is being spread throughout the news, and everybody's all about it now. Like, okay, let's hear more. Megan Good and her husband, who was a pastor, I believe, just recently divorced, and they put out there, "Hey, we're divorcing," and everybody was all about, okay, well, why? What's going on? They want the gossip. They want to know what's bad, what's happening. So a lot of times, that bad stuff gets more attention. And just like the news, to me, the news don't do nothing but promote a bunch of bad things to report on, so I don't even watch it. It's fear mongering. But people are drawn to it. It's like, all right, what's happening? What's going on?
You think that's because our lives suck? And so we get to feel better about our crappy lives because somebody else has it worse?
Could be.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, in our divorce group that I help facilitate, that's something that is commonly talked about, well, my divorce situation is horrible. Oh, wait a minute. I like being in group because, man, your story is even worse than mine, so I don't feel so bad.
Right. I got to keep my house. Half. Like, oh my God.
So, anyway, sorry, I interrupted you, and I apologize. I was, I guess, listening to respond instead of listening to understand there.
Yeah, as usual. No, I was thinking, I think you had asked like about how do you change the narrative or something like that. And I'm listening to you, Terry, and it's like you've already been doing it. Right. It's not how you do it. You've already provided those examples. Going back to the theater thing, that's stepping back and not being offended by the kids coming and say, "Hold up, wait a minute, you need to learn a little bit more about this." And that group saying, "Yeah, I'm going to respect you, and I'm going to listen," because that's a lot of times where we miss the mark. We're not listening to understand where other people are coming from,
right?
And so that opened up a whole different conversation. Both parties learned from each other. Yes. Their inclusion came about, and so that created more respect for one another.
Yeah,
and now our relations are stronger and more positive.
That's right.
And so, but that came from you saying, "Hey, did you have a conversation?"
I mean, right, and because that's really what it is. It's all a lack thereof of communication.
Yeah,
I think communication is key in everything.
Everything.
We do. I mean, marriages, our kids, just being great communicators. Because a lot of things nowadays, of course, is done over the phone or through text message and email. And I'm one that believes that my wife can send me something right now and I can read it and be like, "Oh, she got an attitude. She's mad." Like, "Oh, okay. I see how it is." She tell me like, "That's about 3 stops away." And I'm like, "Okay," then she gonna text me again, like they 1 stop away. So I'm like, "Why are you yelling at me, telling me that they 1 stop away?" I get it, but when she called me, she's like, "Hey babe, Best Buy's on the way."
Right.
Like, oh, but in the text it can be perceived
very
differently. So communicating, face to face is huge for me. And even with my kiddos, just learning that and teaching that early, and we started that early. Like, hey, when you're in middle school and you're in high school, you communicate with your teachers and your principals. I'm not handling that for you. Okay, you falling behind in a class and you need extra credit. Go to your teacher. Don't come to me and say, "Hey, Dad, no, you know what to do." Don't send them an email, even though that works. But after class, go up to them and talk to them and have a conversation with them. So I think a lot of stuff can, be settled, just through conversation and bringing people together because, I think we lack, conversations. And, just to add to that, man, we had family in town over Christmas break and a lot of them, we had some teenagers at, 15, 16, and, they live in Chicago, but they all had their phones and they were all in their phones, the whole time. And I was just sitting there watching until I couldn't take it no more. I was like, all right, come on, we got to put these phones down. But when they put the phones down, it get awkward because they don't know how to interact now.
Yeah.
They don't know how to hold conversations now.
Thank you. I think we've even talked in other episodes about the idea of, phones. And I think that it's an unintended consequence. I mean, there are so many positive things that our phones can do that go way beyond being able to call.
Right.
I mean, for one thing, I don't have the knowledge, my memory is of phone numbers when I was middle school and high school. I mean, I have probably 50, 60 phone numbers memorized at the drop of a hat.
Yep.
Now I barely know my own. Why? Because they're in my phone. Yay! I don't have to remember all these phone numbers. I can just look them up, hit send, and ta-da, I'm talking to you. But the ability, all these other social medias that allow people to communicate that in a very dry or very mechanical way that doesn't allow the nuances of voice fluctuation, being able to engage face to face. And I really feel sad for our kids, because how many times do parents, well, here, just play with this device. I mean, it's not just sitting in front of the TV anymore. It's, well, play on this iPad. Yeah. Here's an old phone, play on the phone, and we're, rather than engaging. And I'm with you, and one nice thing, my parents live out in the middle of nowhere. So cell phone and internet is almost impossible. So it's kind of tough for me sometimes, because I too fall into this trap of, well, I'm bored, I'm going to play on my phone. But if we don't have that phone, maybe we could get out a board game and we could play a board game, or we could just visit and talk.
That's it.
And it's, I mean, because that's how I grew up. That's how we used to do things. But over the last 10 years, 15 years, with all these cell phones and the more that they can do for us, maybe that's a bit of a handicap.
It is.
Yep.
And I think it's handicapping our kids because, like you said, when we were growing up, we had to go outside and play. Like go outside, play, make games up, play hide and seek,
Come home when the street light comes on.
Yeah.
And be close enough that when I yell for dinner, you come on in.
Right. I tell my girls not to go outside and play. They're like, go outside. I would smell like outside.
Am I in trouble?
Right.
I've been trying to get Braddock's like, hey, just go get on your bike and go leave.
Yeah.
Just go where? Go anywhere.
Just ride.
And I started, because Kroger's close enough. I'm like, we used to go with the grocery store and like the convenience.
Get soda and
it was
candy.
close. We were always up there because we didn't have the phones. We were always out and about. I'm like, go. Here's some money. Go up to Kroger.
Right.
He's like,
what? We got snacks in the pantry, though,
you'll be fine. Just go get on your bike. Are you sure? Go. Just go.
Explore.
He's like, oh, that was cool. I had him. I gave him my phone because he was having fun.
Yeah.
And he's 12. I'm like, hey, you're good, dude.
Yeah.
So he called Suzanne's phone, and we didn't hear it. Like, we're good. You're all sidewalk. You're good. We just trust the fact that you'll be good. You're smart enough. And he called when he got there, and he called when he was leaving. I'm like, why'd you call? He's like, to tell you that. I'm like, oh. Like, I didn't even tell you to do that. That's cool, but like, just again, get on your bike, go outside, go meet some girls in the neighborhood, dude. Seriously,
I'm telling you. And
well, again, I like our phones, but I really am also becoming very upset and angry with young people's addictions to phones, and it ties back into that ability to communicate.
Right.
They are, because they can, in a sterile environment, talk, and I put that in air quotes, they're talking, but they're not really talking. They're communicating, but in a very robotic fashion that when it's done electronically through text or email, well, you're missing that inflection, like you said, with your wife.
Yeah, that emotion.
And I think that leads to a lot of misunderstandings.
I agree.
And then that, and again, misunderstanding leads to all kinds of negative responses that creates conflict. And that conflict then creates anger, and it just kind of builds and manifests on itself. And
doing a lot of extra work.
Well,
it's easy. I mean, I think that part of it is easy. Like, working in a school setting, I talk to the girls and the guys, and, most people now, they're breaking up through text messages,
Oh my gosh.
And then it's like, all right, now you done broke up. This person didn't block you. Now you don't even know why, you broke up, and you don't have any, like, you can't go back and forth. It was like, hey, I'm over. I'm done with you. I'm moving on. And you're like, well, what did I do? Again, it's easy, again, like almost somewhat robotic now. And that just leaves that person. So now this person that was broken up with, Now they just carrying all this now. And again, this person may live in a different state. So a lot of these kids now, their emotions and everything that they going through is hidden. It's within them. And, because man, working in the school, we just see so much. And on our side of things with the mental health, stuff, it's real. And, I was one person to believe that, oh man, you're 15, you're 14, you don't have any issues, not going through anything. It wasn't until, I got into this line of work and started working in the schools like, oh no, y'all actually going through stuff and you need help, because again, communication. And if you're not able to communicate with your parent or, a sibling or a friend and let them know how you're feeling, and as parents and as adults, we got to be open to listening to our kids. And I know, and I'm speaking for myself in the Black culture, and a kid to come home and tell their mom like, hey mom, I don't feel, I feel like killing myself or I'm depressed. I know in some Black holes, they're like, boy, ain't nothing wrong with you. Go over there and sit down. Right?
Go lay down until you feel better.
Right. What you depressed about? You got an Xbox. And, right. But it's deeper than that. It's not until you sit down and you start talking to this kid and realizing, oh, you're really dealing with some tough stuff and you really need help. Again, in the Black culture, like therapists and talking to counselors, that wasn't big. Even in high school for me, like I never went to go see a counselor. I didn't even know those tools was available. I mean, they may have been, but I didn't know that. I'm thinking, man, all the time I could have been, getting help and, counseling for my issues that I was having growing up without parents and, living in, a crime-ridden area. Like, man, I needed somebody to talk to and communicate with, because if you're not being communicated with or having somebody to communicate with, then you're going to have issues. So.
That is fantastic. We're running up against our time window again, but I'm glad you brought that up because it is important to be able to talk. And I think that our kids today they're not sure who to talk to. They're afraid to talk to people. And through social media, they have lessened their ability for interpersonal communication. Right. And I feel like they're seeing the world that doesn't really exist. People are pretending to be something that they're not. They're always, with social media, we're sharing everything. Well, think about it. Whenever you take a photo of yourself, you're always smiling. Mm-hmm. Well, because you want to, hey. Well, but that's really, but as soon as you're done taking the picture, oh, boom, there goes a smile. Yep. All right. You're not always that happy. You just want to be happy for the photo. Yep. But I don't know. I feel like so much of our world, or at least our modern American world, has become very aesthetic, very fraudulent, as we're afraid to show how we really feel and who we really are. Yeah. And I love the fact that you brought up how in your in the Black culture, it's very hesitant to do that.
Well, that stigma, and so we talk about that, with our Hope Squad, and it's right. The stigma is still very real.
Absolutely, and I think it transcends culture. I think it's an age thing.
Well, and then with us growing up, I've shared this. I shared in that big assembly. It was growing up and having family members die by suicide. Mm-hmm. It was a conversation that we were not allowed to have because of that stigma. We didn't have mental health issues.
Right.
Go put some. Don't be a Don't
be a pansy. Rub some dirt on it. Toughen up and fly right.
But that's as I've grown and now as the Hope Squad advisor. No. You can't brush it under the rug. We need to have the conversation. That's why I'm super passionate about it's okay to talk about it. Yes. Let's have the conversation. And if you're 15, what issues do you have?
Right.
Well, you do.
Because at that point, that is the world to you.
Right. But again, it's going like communicating and opening up that conversation. Like, it's okay to not be okay, but let's have that conversation.
I agree.
So that, it's, you could go across the board. It's just having the conversation. Whatever it is, have the conversation.
Yep.
And so that's how we're going to break down all those walls.
I agree.
And develop better relationship with each other, respect for authority.
Yep.
Don't assume.
No. ask the question,
Mm.
even if it's tough.
Yeah.
Darrell, Terry, this has been amazing.
Yeah.
So glad you
Good
came
stuff.
back so we could we could probably do at least one more, but
gosh. I
we
know
don't
you got
want
more
to engage
stories.
bridge.
The one thing that we
Yes, man.
haven't really talked much about is the love of the Chicago team. So
Yeah.
I am a Bears fan.
Hey, there we go, Bryce.
So my parents are actually from Illinois,
okay.
and so we would frequent Chicago all the time. And they won by a point.
Well, even a
Last
blind
weekend.
squirrel finds a nut every now and then.
That's true.
I'll take that point. Point taken.
Well, lady, I hate to end it, but we do need to
Yeah, this is good stuff.
stick with our time frame. This has been fantastic.
Yeah.
I agree.
Thank you. Thank you.
And,
So appreciate your time.
thank you guys for having me, man. Look forward to coming back and doing more podcasts.
All right.
There's more stories, but
Oh, yeah.
it was definitely a pleasure. It was fun, man, and can't wait for the next one.
All right, outstanding. Well, I guess we'll call this a day.
call it a day.
And until next time, I'm Rod.
And I'm Bryce.
See ya.
See ya.